Hey, what is up, mortals? It is Mr. Zombie here, and welcome to part 4 of What If Izuku Midoriya Was a Girl? Alright, I just wanted to greet you guys by saying sit back and relax. You guys are in for a treat. So, we begin. Bakugo, what's going on down there? Have you found them yet? I heard explosions. Is fighting your girlfriend really this important? Shut up! She's not my girlfriend! Just protect the weapon, Four Eyes! Hey! Die, Deku! Another explosion shook the building and Ida's communicator went silent. Ida was frustrated by Bakugo's attitude. This was supposed to be a team training. So those two aren't dating? Huh. Uraraka was able to slip into the room while Ida was distracted. He was the only thing standing between her and winning the training exercise. This training is supposed to help us become heroes, but I'm stuck playing the role of a villain. Although it goes against all I believe in, I must devote myself to villainy! Yes! Those heroes don't stand a chance against me! Uraraka couldn't believe how ridiculous Ida was being. She couldn't stop her laughter from slipping out. The armored young man spotted the hero and she stepped out of her hiding spot. So, you managed to slip in here! No problem! I know how your quirk works, so I've taken the liberty of removing all the items on this floor before you arrived. If you thought you could beat me, you better think again, Gravity Girl! Not wasting a moment, Ida revved his engine and dashed at Uraraka. The Infinity Girl dove out of the way. Ida ran along the wall as he turned to make another attack. Uraraka took the piece of rubble from earlier and chucked it at her attacker. With her arm striking true and her quirk making the rocks weightless, the small chunk of debris hit Ida in the temple, grazing across its armor. The attack didn't do any damage, but it was enough to startle the young man and throw him off course. Uraraka took that moment to make a break for the weapon. She used her quirk to make herself weightless and flung herself at the weapon. I just have to grab the weapon and we win! She was drifting ever closer and closer to the weapon. It was almost within her grasp before Ida rushed in and grabbed it. Uraraka couldn't get her landing quite right and ended up tumbling along the floor. Ida stood triumphantly next to the weapon, hands on his hips and laughing maniacally. Looks like I underestimated you, but don't think I'll make the same mistake twice. I just have to wait until the time runs out, and that'll be an easy task for a villain such as myself. Uraraka picked herself up and stared down at Ida. This was not going to be easy, not in the slightest. Another battle was waged a few floors down. Well, less of a battle and more of a manhunt. Midoriya wasn't having the best time combating her childhood bully. Without the confidence of being able to control the output of One For All, she didn't want to risk breaking her arms again or seriously hurting Bakugo. The best that she could do for the time being was to use her knowledge of heroes and of Bakugo to outwit him, or at least stall him until Uraraka can claim the weapon. Bakugo was starting to not take any chances with Deku anymore. He would meticulously check every room he came across, doing 5-point sweeps to clear them out before moving on to the next room. He didn't know if Uraraka was going to try the same stunt she pulled twice, and he also wasn't going to give Deku the chance to throw him again. The maneuver was rather impressive, and it completely blindsided him. Guess that Nerd's Hero book wasn't just for show. He'll have to make a point burning it properly the next time he got his hands on it. Luckily for Bakugo, he had his own tricks up his sleeve and would certainly be a surprise to that damn Deku. Where the hell are you, Deku? You can't hide forever! What happened to that bravado from before, huh? Weren't you going to stand up to me? Frustrated explosions rang out through the building. The shockwaves jolted the building, enough to notice the vibrations but not enough to damage the structural integrity. Midoriya was simply hoping her skills would be enough to handle Bakugo's wrath and take him down. She just needed a plan. Uraraka wasn't faring that much better either. Every time she would try to make a break for the weapon, Ida would cut her off or move the weapon out of her reach. Things were going nowhere fast, and the heroes were running out of time. She still had one piece of rubble in her back pocket that she could use, but she wasn't sure how to use it effectively. There's no way you can best me, hero! You're running out of time, and I have the upper hand! This day will be won by villainy, and there's nothing you can do to stop us! Wah-ha-ha-ha-ha! All Might and the rest of Class 1A watched the combat from the observation stage. Although they were disappointed about not knowing what either team was saying, they were still enthralled by what they were watching. Ida has truly embraced the path of darkness. A little dramatic there, but you have a point, Edgar Allan Crow. It's kind of weird how seriously he's taking this. I mean, it's just training. I'd much rather have to go up against him than Bakugo. At least Ida isn't trying to murder Uraraka. But can't you see how Midoriya is practically dancing around Bakugo? She'd have him on the ropes by now if she were to start giving him the 1-2. I mean, look at her go! Sero's statement drew the class's attention to a specific monitor. They could see Midoriya was, in fact, sidestepping and avoiding all of Bakugo's attacks. Everyone could see that this was making the explosive blonde furious, while the green-haired girl did her best to remain calm, despite the nervous expression upon her face.
Ribbit.
I think you're missing some syllables in Midoriya's name there, Sero. The human tape dispenser became as red as Kirishima's hair. He put on his helmet and he hid his face in an attempt to avoid more embarrassment. Hey look! What's Uraraka doing? The 1A students began to murmur amongst themselves as the Infinity Girl attempted a daring plan to claim victory. She was running out of time and she knew she had to do something quick. Uraraka made herself weightless and leapt to the ceiling. She believed that as long as she stayed out of Ida's range, she could get the weapon. The class held on with bated breath as Uraraka gravitated towards her goal. Ida wasn't moving the weapon, and it looked like she could actually do this. Not on your life, hero girl! Take this! The armor-clad teen's engines flared and fired up. He leapt into the air and spiked Uraraka with a single kick. The young woman crashed into the ground and slammed into a pillar. She laid still and unmoving for about a minute. All of the students in All Might couldn't help but gasp at the sight. Ida broke out of his villain persona to check on Uraraka. Uraraka! Oh god, are you okay?
My head hurts.
Ida helped her sit up slowly, prompting her head up against the pillar. Uraraka's hand suddenly clasped over her mouth before she started throwing up rainbows and sparkles. Ida wasn't sure how to react to that, so he just rubbed Uraraka's back in an attempt to comfort her.
I don't think I can fight anymore, Ida.
Perhaps that's for the best. After this training is done, I'll make sure you're taking a recovery girl.
Thank you, Ida.
But I still have to use the capture tape on you.
Fine, I guess. I guess that makes sense. You did kick my butt. But I'll get you next time, villain.
Ha ha ha! We'll see about that, hero! Begrudgingly, Uraraka let the infamous and evil Ida bind her wrists with the capture tape. The tape wasn't preventing the girl from using her arms. It was more just to show and to let All Might and the Class 1A know that she was defeated. Bakugo, I've captured Uraraka. I'll be down to help you with Midoriya shortly. Do what you want, but I'll blast your ass if you get in my way! He probably would do that, wouldn't he? The cretin. Midoriya was able to give Bakugo the slip again. She tried to get the capture tape on him, but it didn't work. Despite her clever attempt, she couldn't do much against the explosions. At least not without breaking all of her bones, of course. The gears in her head were clocking into overdrive. There had to be something she could do to be more on the offensive. Midoriya looked down at her hand and remembered her softball throw. She flipped her finger a couple of times and imagined the kind of force that would be behind it if she used one for all. That might work! I only have one way to find out, though. There you are, hero! Midoriya spotted Ida sprinting at her. She was able to get out of the way of his attack in time before he began monologuing in a goofy way. She wasn't exactly listening to everything she was saying until a certain point. You are sorely mistaken if you think you can defeat me or my partner. It was an easy task to defeat your teammate, and I'll take you down just as fast. Midoriya only had half a second before Ida came rushing at her with a furious kick. She avoided the strike and countered with a flick of her right index finger. She felt her bones snap and her glove tear as a tremendous rush of air pressure struck Ida. The armored man crashed into the wall and was instantly winded. The green-haired girl rushed at him to apply the capture tape. She was about to get his arms bound just as he thrust his metal boots into her stomach. Midoriya stumbled back, dropping the capture tape and wrapping her arms around herself. It felt like she was hit by a bus. The young woman and the young man pulled themselves to their feet and just looked at each other. For the moment, they could only hear each other's breathing. Then they could hear footsteps approaching and they saw Bakugo heading towards them. One of his gauntlets lit up with a red light. Midoriya wasn't sure what that light meant, but she had a gut feeling it wasn't anything good for her. I finally found ya! Bakugo glanced at Ida. He didn't care if his teammate was there or not. Nothing was going to get in Bakugo's way of reminding Midoriya of her rightful place, in his shadow and left behind. The sweat from my hands is like nitroglycerin, and I can make it explode at will. The more I sweat, the bigger the explosions. But I'm sure you already know that, you damn stalker. Midoriya's eyes widened in fear as she started to put the pieces together. The realization was both horrifying and dangerously clever on the blonde's part. A twisted smile crept across Bakugo's face. He aimed his palm down the hall, directly at Midoriya and Ida. Figured it out, nerd? These gauntlets are loaded with my sweat, so I can unleash a massive explosion. Bakugo initiated the trigger and grabbed for the pin without hesitation. Hold on, Bakugo! You could seriously hurt someone or even damage the weapon, or both! Don't do it, Bakugo! You'll kill them! Oh, they'll be fine as long as they dodge! The massive explosion tore through the building like it was a wet cardboard box. The tremors shook the observation stage. Dust and small bits of rubble fell over Class 1A. No one could believe the ruthlessness and cold-heartedness that Bakugo was capable of. Midoriya! Ida! Uraraka! Bakugo! Are you four alright? The comlink was silent for several antagonizing moments. The dust began to clear and the observers could see the aftermath. A full 3 floors of the 5-story building were blown out. Some of the debris was still crumbling as the smoke cleared. Ida shoved the slab of concrete off of him. His armor had done its job and protected him, although he was a bit rattled. He was able to get out of the brunt of the blast, but just barely. The armor-clad team marveled at the destruction his classmate had done. It was horrifying. Uraraka! Ida sprinted to where he left the captured girl to make sure she wasn't hurt from the blast. There was a ringing in Midoriya's ears, and her vision was whited out. Her head felt like it was spinning. She sat up slowly and began to nurse the burn and pain that was dancing across her skin. The smell of burning hair and fabric was obvious. The lenses of her goggles were damaged, large cracks and glass missing. Patches of the sleeves of her costume were reduced to ash, revealing burnt skin. A familiar red light shone through the scattered dust as Bakugo strode closer to his target. Midoriya picked herself up and got back into a fighting stance. She was ready to unleash another one-for-all flick if Bakugo made any sudden moves. Ha! See? The old man had nothing to worry about. Young Bakugo, you are not to use that again, or I will fail you for this training. What? Why? Because this old man said so. Not to mention you could have seriously hurt someone, including your own teammate. Bakugo growled under his breath. Midoriya took that lapse in perception to brace herself and launch a flick attack, using the middle finger on her right hand. Her glove shredded more and her finger broke as the air force slammed into Bakugo. The blonde was knocked back several yards, just stopping shy of crashing into a wall. He caught his breath and glared at that damned Deku. This wasn't going to be easy. Bakugo smiled at that thought. Ida found Uraraka where he left her. She was still on the 5th floor and was on the opposite side of where the building was destroyed. Thank goodness. She looked a bit shaken, but it didn't seem like she was hurt. Ida, what are those two doing? Did Bakugo do that? He did. That blast could have killed someone. That boy is too reckless for anyone's good, and I don't think I can do anything to stop him. He's too focused on Midoriya to care about anything else. I'm going to get you out of here before they bring the whole building down around our heads. Ida took the brunette in his arms and carried her with ease. Uraraka noticed the smudges and dents in the young man's hero suit. Did Bakugo hit you with that blast too? What a jerk! I'm fine. Don't worry. Let's just get out of here. Uraraka nodded as Ida hurriedly left the building with her in her arms. The fight between the childhood friends wasn't going anywhere. Every time Bakugo would maneuver closer to Midoriya, she'd watch him like a hawk and counter with a well-timed flick of her finger. She had already broken all the fingers on her right hand, excluding her thumb, and only had 3 unbroken fingers on her left. Bakugo knew that he could continue to rush at her until she broke all of her fingers and take her out, but she had a pretty good accuracy with her flick attacks. Her last 3 attacks hit him dead on in the chest and torso. Why are you holding back? Come on! Show me your real power! The explosive blonde used his quirk to launch himself at his opponent. Midoriya avoided the attack and flicked Bakugo away again. Another finger down. 2 more to go. Is that what this is about? I can't do that, Kachan, because I can't control my quirk yet. I'm literally breaking my fingers because of my quirk. What do you think would happen if I used my whole arm? If I'm not careful, I could collapse this entire building and then some. So you think I'm too weak to beat you, Deku? There's no way a worthless nerd like you could. Would you please just listen for once, you dumbass? Bakugo was speechless. He had never heard the nerd swear before. I want to beat you with my own strength because you're amazing, but I haven't made this quirk my own yet. When I do, I'll show you what I'm capable of and I'll win. There was a pause of silence before a buzzer sounded. The training was over. The villain team had won, but Bakugo didn't see it as a victory. After getting tended to by Recovery Girl, the 4 students returned to the observation stage. The class was split between showering Bakugo in praise, while some flocked to Midoriya, admiring her ability to hold her own against the explosive blonde. The green-haired girl took refuge behind Uraraka when the boys of the class approached her, stammering at her compliments. Bakugo wasn't listening to what the extras were saying to him, especially the shitty-haired redhead. He was just glaring at Midoriya the entire time. Your girlfriend's pretty strong, Bakugo. She's not my girlfriend, dumb hair. The dumb hair? Dude, come on, we basically have the same hair, man. Just, different colors. The rest of the matches weren't as heated as the first, but everyone was giving it their all. Midoriya was mumbling to herself as she took notes about her classmates' quirks. She found them so fascinating. Bakugo was just taking in the fights. He didn't know what to expect from the extras in his class. Some of their quirks were strong. Way too strong for him to handle, Todoroki's especially, and that all just ate at him in the worst way. Thank you all for sticking around, and I hope that you enjoyed. Before you leave, we would like to let you all know that We the Celestials has many other channels for your entertainment and viewing purposes. All the information you'll need is right below here in the description. So feel free to check out all the other incredible projects our team creates. Secondly, on behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in the production of today's awesome content. Their details will be in the description below. That's all for today's video, so goodbye and have a divine day. Oh yeah!